Hey, how's it going, everyone? Before we get started into this next episode, I was asked again recently if there was a way to contribute to the podcast or show support, make donations, etc., etc. And I just wanted to remind everyone, since I was asked again recently, that yes, there is. And if you go to my website at falconrychronicles.com and click on the Would You Like to Support link, it'll take you to my Buy Me a Coffee account, and there you can make donations. You can also become a member and support just to say thank you. And I've also just added another membership option, which will allow you access to soon-to-be-released members-only content. I also just had some stickers made for the first time. I'll send you one of those as a small thank you item as well. And if enough people continue to sign up and become a member, then that'll, of course, allow me to make this more realistically self-sustainable, allow me to provide you with more content, different stuff that I think you'll enjoy, and it'll also allow me to continue to travel and do these in person with the guests that I have on, whether that be here in the U.S. or internationally. So any help is appreciated. I'm certainly not asking for any handouts. I'm trying my best to earn any kind of contribution you're willing to make. And like I said, I'm very appreciative of those who have joined so far. So hope you'll sign up, enjoy some of the new content that I'll have probably out within the next, month and a half. And like I said, I appreciate you all's support. So keep an eye out. I'll be releasing posts here pretty soon, giving a better idea on a more exact time frame for a release date for that members-only content. But until then, on to this next episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back for another episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast. And since this is a follow-up episode, we will go ahead and jump straight into this. This follow-up episode, of course, is with Tyler Sladen, and this episode was recorded earlier this year while I was on my way out to Wyoming for another work agreement. I had a chance to swing through New Mexico and pay Tyler another visit, and it was the same weekend, actually, that he was getting ready to record the film that they just released with Final Rise called Montezuma and the Tankers. If you all haven't had a chance to check that out yet, you should. Just go to YouTube, search Final Rise, Montezuma and the Tankers. It's a pretty cool video. It's a good story, and it's a very well done video as well, so check it out if you haven't yet. But this was recorded actually the night before the filming for that started, and we had a chance to roll in and get that done pretty late at night. It was nice to be able to finally get a chance to follow up, though, and squeeze this in with Tyler earlier this year and go into more depth about the different aspects of quail hawking that we didn't get a chance to cover in more detail whenever we recorded our first episode last year. So anyway, we're just going to jump right in and get into this follow-up episode with Tyler Sladen. Enjoy. Here we go.
It's like 11:15, and yeah, that was like the longest drive ever.
Well, I mean, it's better than dead. So we took an hour detour.
I don't know. There was about 45 minutes into that hour detour where I was thinking, well, if we don't get there in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to just go ahead and pretend like we didn't take the detour and just swerve off the road and just end it.
Yeah, to go over that pass, I don't really want to name drop it, but yeah, it's a black ice factory, and especially in the rain. Like, nope.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been through New Mexico more like just as a true visitor once, maybe twice, but like the rest of the time, just been passing through, so I don't really know this area very well at all.
What sucks is like that drive in is gorgeous. Like, those canyons are some of the prettiest canyons you'll see in this whole state. And we did it in the dark, but whatever.
Well, that was like one of the times that I was going through Europe. I went through about 3 different countries at night, and it would have been beautiful scenery. Same kind of deal.
Damn.
Yeah, it's it is what it is, man. You know, I don't know. I'm just happy to be able to at least finagle another one of these trips and stuff, and trying to make the most silver lining out of an otherwise crappy situation and stuff. But appreciate you having me out,
Yeah, glad we can squeeze you in. It's kind of a chaotic moment in time, but oh well.
So
when isn't?
Yeah, I mean it's nuts. Life is always nuts, especially here lately. But so like, tell me again why we're here, like what the whole point of this weekend and stuff. What brought this on?
A buddy of mine, Matt Davis, owns a company called Final Rise. They make upland hunting equipment and clothing. Starting to branch out into more vest types and pant types. He's doing like a docu-series on just different people in the upland hunting community. He's done some on some rad people like Robert Poor and Katie Willis, and he's doing one on Yubi and I. He's kind of highlighting the fact that Yubi and I have been hunting together since high school. Like, we joined the Army together, we deployed together, like we still hunt together, we've worked together. Like, no matter where we've gone, we still end up hunting together and hanging out. So Matt's kind of making a film, kind of highlighting that. So there's a film crew coming down, and we're gonna take them through the rough stuff and hunt some Montezuma quail and Gamble's quail and scaled quail.
So what's the title of the short cinematic masterpiece going to be? Like the quail's bromance? Like, is it going to be
two dudes, one bird? I don't know. I really don't know. I was actually going to ask Matt. Me and Yubi have been joking the whole time because, like, Matt's kind of like, he's busier than me. Like, he makes me look sedentary in life. And we're like, do you know what's going on? And he's like, no. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I have like some vague details, and I'm like, damn, it must suck to be our friend because we operate like this. And so it's like, we're on the receiving end. So we're like, damn. But like, we know no matter what, it'll be a good time. And like those kind of people kind of end up being friends in life. Like, you get a bunch of chaotic people together, and you just, no matter what happens, you're going to have a good time. So
yeah, the whole kindred spirits and like the gypsy type mentality, the I don't know, the traveling wanderer types usually always seem to always, kind of, even though they might like get apart, they always are not too far apart, in life. Yeah.
The people I hunt with the most don't live in the state I live in.
Yeah.
And it's the same way. I mean, this has been a multi-year trend. So, I mean, other than my spouse, like, me and Yubi hunt together. We don't live in the same state. Me and Chad, Gary, Jake, Josh, like we all hunt together every year, no matter what. And it's always somewhere different, but none of us live in the same state.
Yeah. So like over the next couple days, is it going to be primarily gun hunting then, or is it going to be falconry as well?
It'll mostly be gun hunting. My Goshawks at a point in his season where like he can handle being on the back burner like 2 days. He'll be all right. We went and caught a scaled quail today, so he'll be good for a little bit. Yeah,
and in true, I don't know, just Murphy's Law falconry fashion, I guess, the the spectator that comes in, from the 17 and a half hour drive, to come and hang out and stuff, doesn't get to see the catch, but it's still a catch nonetheless,
Yeah, and it's one of those catches where like if you would have been there, like it was sweet, but like Yubi got the best sight of the whole flight. Like I didn't even and that's the thing, like you leave the house, you have a plan, and you, like when we went to that spot, I had a plan to get quail from up high to fly down low so that no matter where anyone is, they could see the flight. And I mean, I've hunted that spot 20 plus times this year with my bird. That was where he caught his first scaled quail. And like generally they do fly down. And today was the one day they're like, nah, I'm going to fly over this mountain so no one can watch. But Yubi was on top being Yubi, so he got to see.
Yeah, I started working my way up the side, and I was just like, nope, no, I'm just going to stay right here. I'm just going to go right parallel along this edge. And I knew that like really quickly that there was no way I was going to be able to keep up. Number one, I'm not conditioned to high altitudes like anymore. And number two, I was, in my muck boots, and there was not gonna be a good result if I tried to keep up like super hardcore. Like it just wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm glad you got to see it though. Those spots and like most of my falconry season is in that region, and like that's the most viewer friendly spot I have. However, like that rock is, any dog that hunts that rock is done the next day. Like there's just it sucks for a human. So for a dog to be hightailing it through there at 10 miles an hour.
Yeah, I mean my legs are already starting. I can already starting to feel them tighten up.
Yeah,
and
you use these stabilizer because every rock wobbles. I call it wobble rock. It's just like loose granite, but you use these stabilizer muscles that you use nowhere else. So
yeah, for sure. Especially not dirt hawking in southern Indiana. I mean, that's for damn sure. But yeah, I mean, the first time I ever really got to saw quail hawking was, as you know, my first trip to Mexico. And, I mean, that terrain was really similar.
Yeah, it's desert. It's
very similar. And, even then I was thinking to myself, like, this wouldn't be personally for me. This isn't really up my alley, but I can totally see the overall like appeal of it. But I mean, part of the reason why, we wanted to do this, like kind of, a second episode, follow-up episode or whatever, is because we wanted to, give you a chance, to kind of highlight more, what some of those like subtle, but very also not so subtle differences in this type of hunting is and stuff. So, I mean, kind of continuing on that note a little bit, like, yeah, I mean, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not easy. It's definitely not like a lot of other forms of hawking.
No, and that's my biggest like takeaway when I talk to anyone getting into quail hawking is it's not an overnight thing, and it's not easy, and like you have to see quail hawking as more of like the grouse hawking of short wings to be done consistently, and you're not going to do it overnight. You have to want it. There's so many from the scouting aspect, because it's not just finding quail that are on the backside of a neighborhood. It's finding quail that are conducive to the falconry you want to see. But then you also need dogs that'll do it, and then you got to be in shape, and then you got to have a bird that brings it all together. Like that's a 4-part equation. That's an orchestra. It's not, and this isn't like a dig at anything else. It's not as simple as just getting a red tail, putting it up on a pole, and pushing a rabbit under it. It's a long-term plan that you have to kind of. You're not going to catch quail consistently doing it halfway. Like you gotta go full send.
Yeah, and to kind of follow suit with that, I mean, you almost would have to do it every day just to have your bird in the type of condition that it would need to be in too, with those really long pursuit flights and that's not even to mention, like you just kind of touched on, your personal cardio. I mean, like I honestly, what's sad is I know for me personally, like my cardio lately has been better than it's been in quite a long time, because I've lost like 25 pounds over the last couple months, and I've been doing an average of about an hour on an elliptical, like almost every day that I am able to. And it's not the same type of conditioning and not the same kind of like, cardio and prep for that. You know?
The only prep I've really found to work is in the off season, 2 hours on the Stairmaster, like every day. Nothing crazy, just a steady, like slow rolling Stairmaster. Mm-hmm. This year, I'm 30 pounds lighter than I was last year. I took a break from quail hawking last year because my last goshawk had passed kind of like a rough time. And I was like, I'm going to take a year to focus on the dogs. And that's what I did. However, falconry has made me lose 30. I have made 0 changes to my diet. Like I still eat Hostess cupcakes. I still slam Red Bulls. I eat Ritz peanut butter crackers like they're going out of style. But I made 0 changes to my diet. The only thing that has changed is I'm running to keep up with my birds some days, because like some days I only have an hour. So like if I walk to my bird, on a day he needs a reflush, he might not get it. So I got to run. So
Yeah.
just what we went through today, but I got to run in that stuff, and it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like I said, I don't know why. I don't know. I think it was because of what I was telling you before. Like, I literally threw all my stuff in suitcases 2 hours before I left and started heading west, and I knew I probably should have just went ahead and thrown in a pair of just like hiking shoes to go along with my boots, but like, I just didn't care. I just wanted to get out, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the kind of footwear for that.
No, and no matter what we would have done, and they're like even if we would have went to like the sandy spots that aren't rocky, those are not boots I want to walk in the sand in either.
No.
I mean, I just don't want to walk in muck boots anywhere really.
Yeah.
Other than to like do chores.
Well, and I know this year I finally bit the bullet, and we had a little bit of leftover flex spending money, and I went ahead and just got another set of my custom orthotics made for my boots, and I'm instantly kicking myself in the ass for not doing that like 8 years ago. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think everybody is.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's there's just so many subtle differences, and I can understand why you made like, the grouse analogy for long wingers, like, in a way, because this does take a lot of extra prep and consideration, time, effort, and energy to make work, for the short wing world anyway.
Yeah. And that's about, that's just any upland. Upland just takes takes planning. It's because you need the birds to be there, and then you need the dog work to go right, and then you need the slip to go right, because unlike a rabbit, a quail can fly, or a grouse or a pheasant. They can fly a long damn way, and they can end up in some sticky situations. I have so many quail spots that have quail that we drove by on the way to where we went today. And the reason why, because they're going to fly 50 yards to a pack rat nest, or they're going to fly to the river bottoms. And it's just not fun. Like, it's just not, granted, you don't always get the flights you want where we were today, but you never get the flights you want in those areas we drove by. Like, that entire river we drove down for 2 hours had quail along the whole thing, but you're catching them with a hawk it's never going to go the way you think it's going to go, if you're even going to catch one at all. And that's quail. It's such a terrain dependent animal that if they're in the wrong terrain, it's just not happening.
So I can't remember if we touched on it much the last conversation that we had whenever we did that recording at the terrier trials, but did we discuss much as far as like what your like personal favorite type of quail is to hunt? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
I don't think we really touched on it. I mean, we got the main parts of your story and all of those other things out of the way in that conversation, but we didn't really get much of a chance to expound on a lot of this other stuff. And so, I mean, I guess just let's take the conversation that way first and just go over like what out of all the types of quail to hunt, I mean, what is your personal favorite type to hunt and why?
With a hawk, it would be Montezuma quail, hands down. Like, no comparison to the other quail. And the reason is that, one, I mean, anywhere you find Montezuma quail is absolutely gorgeous. Like, they need such a pristine habitat to survive. Like, in the United States, down in Mexico, they're kind of more everywhere. But here they need like the most unaltered wild areas. And the other thing is, so I've caught 148 upland birds as of today, this season with this bird. 44 of them have been Mearns quail this year, or Montezuma quail. All of them have been in the air. Every single one. Like, they don't have ground game, and so they fly. And then the other thing with Montezuma quail is when you watch a quail's wing beat, like a scaled quail, Gambel's quail, bobwhite, valley quail, when they flap up, their wings kind of come up over their body a little bit, But when a Montezuma quail flaps its wings, one, they're longer than all the other quail wings. They're one of the heaviest quail there is. But their wings come all the way up and their wingtips touch over their head. And that, by design, was what my theory is to get them out of the canyons that they live in. Because the only way Montezuma quail foil a hawk, from what I've seen, is they beat the hawk out of that canyon, because they always live in, not always, majority of the time they live in canyons. They beat the hawk out of the canyon. They crest that top. They almost like skim the grass as they go over the crest of the canyon, and they dump on the other side, and you'll almost never find them again. They don't fly to rat nests. They don't go to the ground. Every now and then they'll fly through a tree or something, but they fly honest, and they just try to get out of Dodge. And no other quail or upland bird flies that honest, in my experience. I mean, other than like big prairie grouse, but
just by the description being as I like seeing things caught in the air also. I mean, that probably sounds the most appealing to me also. Like if I was to, I don't know, like want to see more flights that were, like that anyway. I mean, because I know for me, and I know for a lot of other guys that I know that do like hunting quail, there's guys that I know of also that don't even like, well, at least like certain species of quail that do go to ground and do kind of tend to incorporate the ground game in their, the evasive aspect of things and stuff. Like there's some guys that don't even really like reflushing, some species of quail, just because it's so easy, like on the reflush to catch certain species and stuff. At least that's just what I've heard. But the aerial pursuit aspect of things, and like the aerial, like kind of dogfight, type of deal, like not that there's like a dog, but you know what I mean? Like the pursuit aspect of it and the aerial maneuvers and stuff. It sounds like it'd be the most appealing to me too, but I don't know.
Then you would love Mearns quail hawking. Scalies sometimes on the reflush will give you a great flight. Bob white reflush is not really. Gamble's quail sometimes, not always. It just depends. There's really no way to like kind of say, no, this is how quail is such a, I mean, I've caught hundreds of quail now, and it almost never goes the same way. Like it adds such a dynamic to it because they can fly,
Well, and I mean, is that why then, because of the dynamic range of different experiences that you always get in each hunt, is that why that's probably why you're going to continue to stick with that then? I mean, why it's going to stay interesting for you? Or?
That's definitely a huge part of it. The other part of it for me is the dog work. The dog work is always different. Like the dog work for me is half of it. Like I get half my joy from the dog work. And that's one thing that like a savvy scaled quail covey that runs and your dogs have to track 500-600 yards to finally get locked down. Don't get me wrong, I love that. I eat that up. However, like when you get on Montezuma quail and your dog goes on point 500 yards away, and like, dude, you could light a cigarette, you could make a sandwich, you could sit there and play a game of Uno and like then go to the point. Like they're going to be there. Like they're just so honest for the dogs. They're so honest for the birds. It's just enjoyable. It's relaxing, and like it's just a different. Whereas like scaled quail and valley quail and Gamble's quail, like I got to get there. They're gonna run. Like they're not gonna sit there that long. But Mearns quail, no, it's just beautiful. I mean, the terrain's rough, but it's just beautiful. They're gonna be there. They're gonna be honest to the dog. Every now and then you might get a covey that they don't run, but they'll walk. If the grass isn't right, they'll walk. Like the cows have hit it a little hard or drought, but generally if the grass is right and the terrain's right, they'll sit there all day. I mean, there's so many times I'll walk in and point, and I'll try to find them. Sometimes I'll stand there for five minutes looking around. I'm like, where are they? Like, they're right in front of you. There's been times where I've walked over part of the covey and I'm staring at two of them, and I just stepped over 10, and they're just so calm, and until they know they're had, they just sit there.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. Yeah, like I said, I don't know half of this stuff from Adam, so like I said, it's always cool getting a chance to see, not just hear about it, but see it in person too. And I mean, like I said, the terrain's definitely not for me, but it sounds like, yeah, that type of quail hawking, like if I was to theoretically do it, that would probably be the most appealing just because of that aspect. But I mean, like, as far as the other species go, then, I mean, if you didn't have access to Montezuma, then, I mean, what other would you try and focus on?
Scalies. I love scalies. They have I mean, all quail kind of have a diverse range of what they can live in, but the most common scaled quail areas is just open grassland with like some kind of cover, whether it's cholla, shinnery oak, mesquite, sprinkled sparsely throughout that area. And it's just big open country. And like the thing that's fun about scalies is they're the most inconsistent quail. Like most quail are pretty consistently known to be in areas where scaled quail, like they are where they are. Like, and it's big and it's open and they move around a lot. So the dogs really get to run bigger on them. You get to really see it becomes you lean heavier on the dogs when you're hunting scalies, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so I guess now then would be a good time to get a little bit more into like the dogs themselves. And, you know, kind of like we mentioned earlier, I probably myself, I know you get conditioned to it after a while, you know, walking in that pretty consistently. But I mean, if I'm sore after just, I don't know, we weren't even out there for what, maybe like 2 hours or something, maybe if that. I mean, today
about 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm sore after 2 hours, you know, I can only imagine how sore those dogs could possibly be. And like, it's easy to understand why someone would need almost like 2 teams of dogs for that type of hawking.
Oh, absolutely. You don't need as many as I need, but like I raise dogs. I like raising dogs. I enjoy it. So there's that. And then there's also like when I'm not flying my hawk, I enjoy walking behind my dogs with a shotgun. So when you like to do both, like I can't hurt my falconry dogs or run them into the ground for a shotgun. So I like just carry a gun behind the other dogs, you know? And then I this year has been the best year for me to rotate through dogs. So I try, like, if we hunt stuff like we did today, I won't fly over those dogs tomorrow. Like, those dogs will get a break. Mm-hmm. I found that, like, every other day is a real good rotation.
And you said you brought, what, like 13 dogs with you this trip?
Yeah.
Something like that?
13. Yeah. Yeah, 13 dogs. I mean, one of them's a terrier, but Mouse is kind of my mascot, and Mouse goes everywhere that I go, so...
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for anyone that's kind of considering this as more of a norm for their falconry and stuff, then, I mean, go a little bit into kind of what a good dog team is in your mind, and like which breeds and like the combinations and things that you think work best and stuff like that.
To me, if I had to get by with like the bare minimum and all I cared about with falconry was I'd have 2 big running dogs and a close working dog, like a Vizsla or a Brittany or like a short hair. Like those kind of fit the bill for me for close working dogs. And then for the big running dogs, like a setter or a pointer. To me, that's it for big working dogs or running dogs. And the reason is for that. So the big running dogs, you can kind of lean on. They keep you in birds. They produce birds. And then the close working dogs is they pull up the rear when there's birds that are running or birds that need to be tracked, or you're looking for a single for a reflush. Because trying to get the big running dogs to hang close and find a single, I mean, you might as well hit yourself in the head with a hammer. Like, you can do it, but like they're just so wired to be at the range that they like. And everyone's like, well, I don't want to keep up with a big running dog. And what you don't understand is once that dog's trained, it's not a matter of keeping up with that dog, because that dog's going to stand birds until you get there, and that's their job. So it's not a matter of keeping it. In the end, you end up walking less. So because you're walking from dog find to dog find, you're not you're not taking a close working dog hunting. Those dogs are taking you hunting if you've got the terrain that allows it. And that's what I love about a big working setter or a pointer. Like, I'm following them. They know way better than I do. Just, I mean, sometimes like I'm going to steer them and I'm going to point them in the right direction while I'm birds that I know. But generally, like, I kind of just let them do their thing and I follow them around. As long as they're in front of me and going forward, I'm cool with it. So what I like to do is run 2 big running setters every day, and I'll rotate through those ones, and then I'll run Trigger, or who's a Vizsla, or I'll run Tilly. My spouse is short hair, and I'll rotate between Trigger and Tilly. And they're great tracking dogs. They're great at finding singles, and they're great at working close. And close to me is like within 100 yards, 150 yards. Big to me is any dog that's over 200, 250. I mean, some of the pointer we have and some of my setters, I mean, they'll hit 500, 600 and stand birds till you get there. Darla, there's days where I let her out of the truck and she's already on point at 400 before the time I've put the next dog down. And I mean, that makes my day easy. Like, I just walk to that dog. Granted, you got to get the dog there. You got to train a dog to that level. But once they're on their game, it's really nice to see.
So, generally speaking, then on average, team of like 4 dogs, then too long, too short, or too close, too long.
I think bare minimum 2 long and 1 short, because the shorter working dogs, they don't run themselves into the ground as hard. So you can kind of, if they're younger, you can, for years. I mean, Trigger will be 9 this summer. Trigger ran every day of my falconry career, no matter what. But now that he's 9, I'm starting to rotate him out more and just kind of extend his run. But I think 3 would be the perfect bare minimum number. I mean, 4 would be better.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as like what's an excessive number then?
I'm not really the man to ask about moderation.
Let's just say you're not you and you're reining yourself in here. Like, what's almost too many dogs in a team?
I think more than 6 can get out of hand if you're not working them a lot. I mean, on a day that I hunt sun up to sundown, every dog I own gets ran. So like, I will run all my dogs, and I don't know if everybody else is like that. So everybody will get ran.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, 6 dogs definitely seems like a lot to manage, to me. I mean, I know just managing like, my 3 dogs and stuff can be a little, sometimes depending on the circumstances, it can be a little overwhelming.
And it's all perspective. Yeah. If I left on a road trip with 3 dogs, it'd be like, I'd feel like, what do I do with my hands? like just 3?
Yeah.
Granted, though, if one of those dogs is a puppy, it changes things, or it's young. But if it was like Trigger, Mouse, and Kira, like, those dogs are almost mechanical at this point.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure that's a big factor in it all too. Just the veteran aspect and just the mate aspect of it and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's good information, for people to hear though, because I think that, and we've discussed this amongst ourselves, many different times, but especially whenever you're trying to initially get into something, just trying to absorb and figuring out and discern information can be so like overwhelming, and trying to figure out what's going to work for you in your situation on top of that can make it even more overwhelming. So, the consideration for people and stuff, like as far as the breeds go, for people that, I mean, you've lived in multiple types of situations and multiple places and stuff. And, for certain circumstances and certain living situations and things like that, for some of those breeds, I mean, what do you think would be the best choice for, people living in certain situations that you yourself have already kind of had experience living in and stuff? Like, I mean, I know it's kind of a very broad question, but if I was quail hawking like back in Missouri still, 3 dogs would be more than enough. Yeah.
And what I'm mainly talking about is the desert, where it's hard. Like, even with dogs that are conditioned, their pads are conditioned, their feet get sore, their legs get sore, their joints get sore. And that's what I say when I have sore dogs. It's not them blowing pads. I mean, I have dogs that haven't blown pads since September, but they still get tired, and you can see it in their run. I'll use Darla for example. On a normal day, Darla's 300 to 500 yards out. If I'm hunting her and she's only hunting like 120, like she's tired. She's not. I didn't chop her range, and she's tired. She needs a day off. And I don't want it because I don't need 3 dogs stacked at 100 yards. They're not really doing me anything. They're doing me any favors right then. Mm-hmm. So she's better off just to get the day off. But out in the West, and I have now, as of this last road trip, I have caught quail in every state except Washington. Well, in every Western state except Washington, and that has quail. Every Western state except Washington and like South Dakota. I've caught them from Nebraska down to Texas, all the way to California, up to Oregon now. And like the Western states really applies when we get back to how many dogs would be great. But you start getting out east, you don't need that many dogs. I mean, I even took a trip to Minnesota 2 years ago, and it was the first time in my life where I was like, yo, I have way too many dogs. I just don't need this many dogs up here. I could have came up here with 4 or 5 and had more than enough, but I rolled in with 12, and I was like, I don't need this much. Because the other thing with up there and out east is you can't drop 3-4 dogs at a time. Like, it's just too chaotic.
Yeah.
They don't have room to stretch out and spread out. So
yeah, because generally speaking, it is going to be more of a urbany, in a lot of situations type of environment too, right?
Yeah, like we ran 3 setters tonight in Avicela, and I mean, they hardly shared the same airspace. We had that area, but like in Missouri, I mean, you're hunting 40-acre parcels. Like you put 4 dogs down, they're gonna hunt that whole piece of property in 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no need.
Well, and that's exactly why I found out that, at least for where I'm at, especially too. I mean, it didn't matter if it was for, even if we had quail, even quail, rabbit, it wouldn't have mattered. Like where I'm at, I found out quick that, a dog like a Vizsla, wasn't the best, choice. That's why I found out real quick, after getting, unfortunately. But I mean, like, so as far as the breeds that go, like in the different, states and stuff. I mean, those more Midwestern states, and so would you still use the same breeds though, or would you focus more on some of those shorter range breeds, more like a Vizsla or something, or like in some of those other situations?
I'd probably still have the same breeds, but the saying in bird dogs is you can't push a rope. I can't put range back into a dog, but I can always bring them in. So I would just raise my dogs a little bit differently. Like my dogs are raised with so much freedom out here. That they develop that range. Like they're partially born with range, but they also develop it. Like years and years of you not getting on their rear for being out 500 yards, they start to push their range as they develop. But if you were in Missouri, like you're gonna get in their case for them being at 5. Like you don't need them out that far. There's no need. So I mean, it's hard for me to answer that because I love setters so much. Like they're like, if I had to pick a bird dog breed, they're my bird dog breed, but I would just either get closer working lines or just chop in my dog's range. That's it. So,
yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, you just can't compare this type of terrain with that type of terrain back out east. You just can't. It's completely different.
No, like the spot we hunted tonight, like that piece is 20,000 acres of public. Like,
yeah,
that's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, there's not going to get that where we're originally from. No. Yeah, I mean, I'm from Massachusetts. I can't even imagine that out there. There's no way. Massachusetts, even like 20,000 acres big. Huh?
It takes you an hour to drive across it north to like south. I tell a lot of people out east or in the Midwest, I'm like, just get a spaniel. Like if you want a little do everything dog, just get a little spaniel. That's gonna light the woods on fire in a 30-yard circle around. You just get a little cocker or a Springer, or get a terrier or a dachshund. They like those breeds have a great niche to fill within falconry.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm especially if you're more, if you are living in an area that does have more like feather than fur or whatever, something like a cocker or something like that would be pretty good. That type of dog for sure.
That little cocker I have in the truck is one of the best little rabbit dogs I've ever seen. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, she loves like she just likes to chase stuff. So
sure. Well, and ideally, if you have larger areas with feather and fur both, larger lots and stuff like that, then it'd be hard to beat that for sure. Yeah. But, well, I mean, what other things do you want to kind of cover or talk about that we didn't really get much of a chance to talk about last time, while we're doing this? I know there's only so much time, that you have to discuss, and especially when we hadn't seen each other for like ever, after that last episode that we did and stuff. I mean, there were so many things to cover. We only got a chance to talk about this specific topic just briefly, but I'm sure there's probably some other things that that come to mind probably that you wouldn't mind discussing while we're doing this, right?
Yeah. Now that I'm on the spot, it's just like, where did they go? But afterwards I was like, dang, I wish we could have talked about XYZ. And like, now I can't really remember XYZ. The other substitute, I guess, for a close working, like pointing dog is a flushing dog. Like I do use my cocker. I do use my terrier. I haven't flown actually this goshawk over my cocker. I just been kind of focused on the pointing dogs and this year really. And my terriers, I kind of retired her from doing raccoon and pig stuff. So I've been using her as my little flushing dog this year. And I got her sits out of motion real good. So like if I got 3 dogs on point, she'll sit wherever I tell her to. And then she'll go in and flush. And she helps out a lot more than I really thought she would have, because I've really used her a lot this year for quail. And she can just get down, and just like a dachshund, she can get down in some nasty cover that I can pick my hawk back up off the ground, put him on my glove, and like stand back and just send her in. And now my hawk's view isn't obstructed because I'm not trying to kick through chest high cover. Like she can just walk underneath it. And I've been able to get a lot cleaner reflushes doing that. And if I am going to reflush a quail, I kind of want a clean reflush. I don't want to get it. I don't want my bird catching it in there. I want to like at least give it a chance to fly out,
Sure. Well, I mean, just out of curiosity too, and maybe talking about something slightly unrelated might jog your memory on one of the other things. But, I mean, just out of curiosity from my end of things, like, I know you've flown long wings and stuff before. I mean, has there been a temptation yet or an interest yet in possibly using like, a bigger long wing or something possibly to hunt quail with also? I mean, I know you're kind of shifting more to the mindset of trying to focus just on kind of like one bird at a time and stuff now, but like, I mean, have you ever really wanted to pursue that more since you've got some really nice wide open areas out here and stuff? Or
that a good long wing is the devil on every short wing or shoulder. Like it's I've thought about it. I've talked to some Merlin people, because there are people that fly Merlin on Montezuma quail. They don't really fly them on other quail species that much down here, but they do like Tanner Schwab loves to fly them on Montezuma quail. And when I got into hunting Montezuma quail, I didn't understand it. Like, how? Because all I had known was Bob White and Scalies and Gambles. Like, how is he doing it? But like, the more I chase Montezuma quail, I'm like, this makes so much sense because they fly honest. So the devil on my shoulder has been like, dude, like a male prairie falcon on the right Mern setup, because I can hike that country all day with a hooded falcon, and then when I get the right dog point on a so like maybe not a canyon bottom slip, but like sometimes you get merns up on top of the canyons, and if I could push a merns off that canyon top, and I have time to set up a flight, like I can unhood my bird, cast him off, all right, here he comes overhead flush, and like no, you're not going to get crazy pitches, but like I don't care, I'd be the only dude out there catching Montezuma quail with a prairie falcon from waiting on. So that has always been a devil on my shoulder. I just don't know how well I can do two birds.
Yeah. Well, and like this type of hawking, you know, it's not really, I mean, like quail hawking, snipe hawking, you know, a lot of these different, you know, types of, you know, prey base, you're not, you know, I mean, it's not about pitch anyway. It's more about the pursuit, you know, and we're kind of watching the flight and everything else. And I mean, who cares about the pitch so much? But if you're going to see a really amazing flight starting from the air, you know, and it's already kind of happening in front of you and everything. I mean, to me, it just seems like that'd be really, I mean, hard not to do at some point.
Well, the other thing is, so like, if I was to do that, you're not, there's no way to mark them from the truck and put a falcon. Like, I'm going to have to go hike some nasty country with a falcon, which I might as well do while I'm young. So like that will be the devil on my shoulder for a few years. I don't know. I'll do it eventually. It's a goal of mine. Like I have it all like mapped out in my head. I just think it would be so cool to see a prairie falcon make like a crater in the ground with a Mearns quail from like, even if it was 50 feet, I don't care. I mean, you can always make it harder later. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it would be hard for me to, I mean, the thing that I'm really tempted to start looking into more personally is you know, snipe and stuff like that, especially too. And I mean, whether it be quail, snipe, whatever, I mean, even with, I mean, yeah, male prairie for sure, but also even, you know, a tiercel, you know, peregrine, something would be fun too, I think. But
yeah, I've thought about trying, like, I mean, that'd be the shortest path, like a tundra male. However, everyone I've talked to says like everyone wants a tundra male. Like, good luck, buddy.
Well, here pretty soon, hopefully all that stuff will be normalized anyway, right?
True.
Hopefully.
It would be, I mean, that'd be incredible to go to Padre, trap a tundra male, catch friggin' Montezuma quail off a dog point with it from a waiting on like this.
Yeah. You'll end up doing it at some point. We both know you will at some point.
I want to do it. I mean, it's hard to think about when I got a brown goshawk. If he was an adult, you know, I'd feel less bad like leaving him behind for a day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying now, but you know, we all know that the whole Murphy's Law thing can happen at any time. And you know, I mean, there's no point in looking past the brown bird that you have right now. But just for conversation's sake, you know, while we're sitting right here at midnight, you know, kind of, you know, just talking about some of this different stuff and speculating. I mean, it really, there's so many things still that I think would be cool, but I know if I was in your position and this is what I had available to me, it would be really super hard. And especially since, you know, I mean, with the prairie aspect of things, like, as much as I'm not a fan of imprinting and stuff, like, I honestly probably wouldn't. One of the few exceptions would probably be like imprinting or doing another male prairie. That would
be the only falcon I'd imprint, like, because
I enjoyed it. Like, that's the only imprinting experience I've ever tried that I've enjoyed.
Did you pull yours in Idaho?
Utah.
Yeah, an imprint male prairie. I mean, it's an imprint, but whatever. The time spent looking for a passage male prairie could be better spent just making my imprint male a better bird. And that, like, there's no guarantee that you're going to even find a passage male prairie to trap. I mean,
yeah, I mean, some places is easier than others for sure.
Absolutely, but like, in 7 years in New Mexico, I've seen like 2 males, but I see females all the time. Like I saw 2 females today, but I never see the males. I don't know where they go.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about that either. But yeah, I mean, it spoke volumes to me. That's like, I mean, that's still to this day is like one of the only like 2 birds I've ever had that even my wife, who hates birds, liked even. And you know, I can totally see. And the one that I had he was pretty small. He's about, I mean, he was flying about 400-ish grams, fairly small. And you know, that would be, I feel like it'd be pretty good size for something like what you're doing with these quail.
I really wouldn't want any bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, 400. The other one I considered would be like a male Barbary, but after talking, they have a real heavy wing loading. So like if they had to pitch up or had to go to, like, they're just not, there's also the romanticization. Like when Hash Brown was a native goshawk that I flew on, native quail in the same state. So to me, like a prairie falcon is like same thing. I mean, I see prairies almost every day where I hunt. So it's like, it'd be really cool to catch these birds with a falcon that lives here.
So you've never found around this area where they have iris?
I've found iris. I've just never, during like trapping season, I've never seen a tiercel like just hanging out.
Okay. Well, yeah, man. If you know where some iris are, sounds like the route to go then.
Yeah, I'd love to pull one. So
yeah. And like I said, I would like to do that again someday. And part of me almost wants to do another one just because I felt like I was robbed, of the chance to see that through. And I really think that would be another cool bird to try on some of these smaller, migratory, type species and stuff, like the
field birds.
Yeah, like the field birds, like the snipe and other stuff like that too. But, all that being, hell, even dove, I mean, I think it'd be kind of neat to even try on dove or something too, but I don't know, man, it's whatever. I'm got so many issues right now too. I'm kind of like you. It's like, I don't have a brown bird right now even, but like just trying to get through the next few months just for me is even, it's hard to even think past that.
Yeah.
Just life,
Yeah. And I've been doing a lot more field photography and field video for other people getting paid to do it. And this has been the year I've done the most of it. And it's been an adjustment too. Cause I'm so used to being able to, I'm going to fly my bird every day. And like, nope, I got to put him down for a couple of days. I got to pick him back up. I got to put him down. So
yeah, no, I feel you. And, like I was telling you earlier, I've got such a backlog of unpublished episodes and stuff. And juggling extracurricular falconry related stuff, it makes it, unless you literally don't have to worry about making money, it really makes it almost impossible to do justice to more than one bird, just with the lack of time allowance.
Well, and the other thing with goshawks too is there's doing a falcon, doing 2 falcons really well. Like, yeah, that's time, but like you can always do more with a goshawk, whereas with a falcon, like they kind of have like a set amount of time other than like driving to your slips. But with a goshawk, like you got time to fly 3 hours, go fly 3 hours. You got 4 hours, go for it, So
yeah, I mean, and it is really hard with accipiters in general, I think, to almost put too much time into them, because it's like the more time you put into them, the better result you're going to get.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
so like if I have another hour in my day, I'm just going to add it to my hunting hour.
Yeah.
Generally, I try to block out 90 minutes, but the days I get 2 hours, I'm pumped. I get 2.5 hours, I'm like over the moon.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, out of curiosity too, I mean, you've been sticking with goshawks so much, but I mean, with all this quail stuff, I mean, have you not ever been tempted to to go the coop route or anything with all these quail too? Since
Not even a little. The thing with coops is when you go to an AFA meet, when you look at that weathering yard, how many adult goshawks do you see? There's a few, you know.
Yeah.
How many intermewed coops you see?
Like none.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm not really trying to figure that reason out. Goshawks, I mean, they're fragile enough. I don't, when I look at a Cooper's hawk, I don't see the juice being worth the squeeze to me. Like, I'm going to put in the same amount of time I would to a goshawk to get a bird that I don't think it's going to do what I do any better. And if it does, I mean, they might catch more quail, but like a coops generally has more ground game, and I don't want more ground game. I want them to win in the air. So I don't know. That's what I like about goshawks. Granted, I've seen videos of like McDermott's old coops, like just smoking bobwhite on covey rises. Like that stuff's cool. Absolutely. But, that's bobwhite. It's not desert quail. So
yeah,
desert quail are bigger and stuff. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's definitely kind of been taunted in my face. I've thought about it. I've wanted to do it, but the other thing I really like about my goshawk is like I can just take him out with a group of people. Like I don't care what you're wearing. Like you can wear an orange ski suit for all I care. Like he'll be fine. As soon as a quail pops up, he forgets about everything in the field.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's not something that I'll see the juice being worth the squeeze again for a while either in trying. But in other words, it's not quite the devil on the shoulder.
No, it's not a devil on my shoulder. It's more like a nightmare I wake up sweating thinking about. The other thing, like I flew my bird tonight, 30 grams overweight, like not on purpose. And I mean, I'm not like, we drove there. I'm going to fly with someone he's never seen. And he flew over my buddy. He flew over one of Yubi's dogs and my dogs. And like, he wasn't as good as he could have been, but he still did it. So like, it's just hard to beat a goshawk for those kind of things. Like they're real forgiving to me compared to a coop. Yeah. I've flown Sharpies and, they were like having a full-time job. Like those Sharpies are so much work to keep them alive.
Yeah, because they try and find every way, shape, and form to die.
They like invent ways to die. Sharpies are hard work. However, when Sharpies were on their game, it was cool to catch sparrows 10 feet in front of my face.
Sure. Yeah, and they do it so fast. So fast, especially a little musket, man.
That little male I flew was a blast.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, has anything else popped back into your head yet?
No, I think we've kind of had a well-rounded covering of things. So
yeah, I mean, I know the most important things that most people try and take into consideration for the most part, because I mean, could you imagine doing this without dogs? Quail hawking?
It's definitely possible, but like, would it be fun? No.
Yeah.
It's like, it'd be like going out on the boat and being like, all right, we're going to leave the motor on the shore and we're going to use a goddamn paddle. Like,
yeah,
it's not like the idea of bass fishing that day just got less fun.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing, the Rolling Plains quail research thing that I got to go do.
Okay.
So the Bull Research Lab, Clint Bull owns it. He's a falconer, but he loves using falconry for like true science. And so what he did is he contacted a bunch of falconers to write down, where do we find quail? Okay. And then where do quail go when they're pursued by a Harris hawk, a Cooper's hawk, a goshawk, whatever that falconer is flying. So we've been like giving him data for years on that. And he's been compiling all the different species of quail, what's chasing them, where they're going. And what it's been countering is the way they used to research quail and used to define escape cover was they'd go out, they'd radio tag quail and they'd go out there every day and they'd flush them with a human. Quail don't go to the same places when a human flushes them. And they know this now, but now they're getting more and more data to like truly learn where do quail want to go. And so, and that's what they're now calling escape cover. And so we got invited to the Rolling Plains Quail Research Ranch in Texas, which is, I don't know, it's like 20,000 acres. It's huge, but it's groomed for quail, bobwhite quail and scaled quail. So Nate Danforth, Steve Warby, Brian Wood, myself, Jake Thomas, we all got invited. Jake's coming on the next trip, but he wasn't there on the first trip. But they wanted us to catch quail there on like an even playing field, collect more data. But the other thing they were trying to figure out was from the quail that we were catching, were our hawks targeting quail with eyeworms? Were our hawks targeting quail with cecal worms? And I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I've gotten to like hang out with enough of them and absorb enough by proxy that my theory was quail are not being targeted by hawks because of their eyeworms or their cecal worms. What quail are being targeted by is their age. In my experience, and I check on almost every quail I catch, quail that are born the year that they're caught in generally just get caught more than adults. There's more of them. There's usually more. It's usually like a 3-to-1 anyways, but they're slower and the hawks know, and they see the slower bird and they chase the slower bird. So most quail I've seen caught in my life it's a bird of the year, even late in the season. So, anytime I see like a spectacular quail flight in falconry, like a covey rise, catch midair, at this point I'm like, that was a juvie. There's no way it wasn't. An adult would not have let himself die like that. So we got to go out to the ranch and we got to catch quail and compile data. So that was a really cool thing to see falconry incorporated into like mainstream science. And they loved the data points we collected so much that we get to go out again for a week. And this is a ranch that auctions off gun hunts for like $10,000 a person per day. And we're getting out to go out there with hawks and just catch quail for free and like collect data. Like trip of a lifetime. It's like quail Disneyland. Got to meet like Dr. Dale, who has a podcast called Dr. Dale on Quail. He's like a leading biologist on grooming land for quail. Texans and quail are like peanut butter and jelly like that. Texas loves its quail. So, and he's like quail Jesus to those people. So getting to meet him was cool, and getting to be a part of that like is a memory I'm going to cling to. And to do it with such a good group of guys, like to be with Nate, Brian, and Steve, was an incredible time. Like, it was one of the most fun falconry trips I've ever been on.
Cool, man. No, that sounds awesome. And that's, yeah, I mean, getting to do things like that, it's such a privilege getting invited to like be a part of anything, when it comes to our peers, and falconry and stuff. And yeah, man, I can imagine, especially that being such like a mecca, like, of a place or your favorite quarry to hunt would be pretty killer for sure.
Yeah, like here's this ranch that costs millions to run every year, groomed just to grow quail. And like we got invited to hunt it. Like, but for me, like the best part of all of that wasn't even flying my bird there. Like, granted, I had a blast doing that. It was getting to like spend time in the field with all these biologists, because they came out and watched and just dissect their brains on quail. And like every plant I pointed at, I'm like, what's that? And they're like, that's Johnson grass. I'm like, what's that? And they're like, that's Christmas choy. And like, just to have like a walking field guide with me for a hunt. Like, why do quail do this? Like, what's the average lifespan of a quail? And then I caught a banded quail. So that was pretty cool. Like, everyone loves a banded duck, but I caught a banded quail.
Yeah, I know the guys in Mexico, that's like kind of like their ultimate. Like
no, they have a species called banded quail.
Yeah.
But I caught a quail.
You're talking about I caught
a quail with like a metal band on
it.
it. Yeah,
I got you now. Okay. Yeah. No, I was gonna say, I was just like, yeah, that's pretty good because they talked like really highly of being able to like catch those down there.
Yeah, no, I've heard. I really want to go down there and like see them. I've gone down to Mexico and I've seen elegant quail, and I saw Montezuma quail thick as fleas, which was mind numbing for me because they're like such like a fringe species in the United States. So to like go down there where they're like a yard bird, I was like, this is insane. I went down there hunting turkeys and we moved 5 coveys stalking 1 turkey. I was like, this is nuts. I was like, you guys are selling turkey hunts, you should be selling quail hunts. Like, this is crazy.
That's funny, man. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad we got a chance to like do a follow-up one of these and dissect actual quail hawking a little bit more, and especially, from offering it up from your point of view and like just said, just get a touch on some of the finer points that we didn't get to last conversation and everything. But I mean, is there any other final note you want to end this on or anything? Or are you good? Or
I guess the only other thing I could add is if you're wanting to get into quail hawking, you've got an open invite. If you've got a bird you think will catch quail, you're welcome to come down, pick a species. I'll put you on them. You can fly it over my dogs, but that's about all I got.
Well, nice, man. Well, I think that's a nice note to end on then. And I know it's starting to get late here anyway and stuff. And I don't know how early the morning's going to be, but I'm glad we could fit another hour in and talk specifically about this stuff. And it's been fun hanging. I wish the circumstances were a little bit, better and a little bit more, less chaotic, I should say. But it is what it is, right?
Yeah, do what makes the better story.
Spoken like a true falconer, right? Awesome, man. All right, well, we'll call this good then, and we will, see what we can do about doing a part 3 again sometime. So,
all right, man. I appreciate you having me on.
For sure, man.